Welcome to the Pedego Podcast and the eBike Revolution. Join us each week as we talk with the entrepreneurs behind this movement and the love stories of those just riding along. Brought to you by Pedego Electric Bikes. With our first go at this whole story here, Mr. Pedego himself, Don DiCostanzo. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, Paul.
Do we call you Mr. Pedego? Is there official title or anything?
Don is my name.
All right. So walk us through. You've told this story so many times. You must be able to tell it in your sleep. How, why, who, what, when, where. You had a whole career before this. You had a very successful life before you stumbled onto e-bikes, right?
Well, yeah, it started with me first learning about e-bikes back in the late 1990s when Lee Iacocca had a brand of electric bikes that he was trying to sell here in this country.
I remember after he left Chrysler, he had this vision of e-bikes, and everybody said, "Have you lost your mind? You're not running a Chrysler Corporation or Ford anymore. You're going to run e-bikes?" And people said, "I didn't know what that was."
Yeah, so that's almost an episode in itself, but it was the first time I'd heard of it, and we can certainly do a deep dive into that. And
I'd love to some point, yeah.
Other guests can get involved with it. Unfortunately, Mr. Iacocca passed away a year or two ago, but he was a fan of Pedego. His daughter lived next door to one of our customers, and one day he walked out with his wheelchair and saw the Pedegos on the back of a friend of Tom's car. And he goes, "Now that's e-bikes done right." And that's all he said. So that was about the highest compliment could get
from Lee Iacocca, right?
The founder of the Mustang and the K car, and just one of the best entrepreneurs on the planet that grew up in the corporate world, much like I did. So I grew up in the corporate world and had a job and worked my way up in automotive space. Ended up owning a chemical company with some car washes, but I got the bug. And once you ride an electric bike, it kind of changes your life. First time you ride it, you'll remember, and then all the rides after are just part of an ongoing adventure that most people get to experience, and once they do, they get a taste of it.
So had you sold that all and left that all? Were you in the enjoying life part of your journey here, and just fooling around, looking around, or was this something you were actively seeking, another business here?
I was not seeking it. It was an accident. My company was in Texas, and I had an office at the beach at the top of a hill. And at lunchtime, I wanted to go down to the beach and have lunch or go visit with friends, or after work, go have a drink. And I love to ride my bike at the beach, but I didn't like going up the hill afterwards.
Down was fun. Up was hard.
That's exactly right. And it's actually more fun riding a Pedego up a hill than it is down a hill.
Really? All right. Well, we're going to talk about that. All right. So you had this need, and you looked around and you said, well, there must be something I don't want to take the car down to the beach. I don't want to walk down to the beach. And you discovered this thing called an e-bike. What was that like? Was it an epiphany? Did the sky open? Did it suddenly say, this is the future?
Sort of. The sky's always open when you're at the beach because it's beautiful blue skies. But I did research online, and this is back in 2006, and I found that the company that claimed to be the largest electric bike retailer was not in California, but in New York City, in Manhattan.
That's strange.
And on the Upper East Side. So I got them on the phone. I picked the bike that I wanted. They shipped it to me. It came in a box. It didn't work when I got it. It took me about 3 months to get it going because I'm like a lot of customers. I don't know how to put a bike together.
Sure.
I can maybe put air in the tires, but don't ask me to adjust the spoke or anything else. So
or the gears or anything else.
Yeah, you got to adjust the derailleur. There's a lot of adjustments you need on a bike to fine-tune it. So I bought this one bike online. They shipped it to me. It came in basically broken. I spent 3 months trying to get it running. Once I got it running, I had that aha moment because it got me up the hill. I said, oh, my God, if somebody did this right, there'd be something to this. And so over the next year or so, I ended up buying a total of 7 electric bikes online, 7 different brands from 7 different companies.
That must have been the whole catalog. There couldn't have been more than 7 at the time.
I think I bought everything I could find. If there were more, I would have bought them. I just wanted to get a sense of what they were. And then I went around to the bike retailers here in Southern California, and when I brought up the word electric bike, they showed me to the door.
We don't need that thing.
Why would you ruin a perfectly good bike by putting a motor on it, was most of the response. One guy beat his chest and said, there's no way we would ever sell an electric bike.
Really? Okay.
And I said, well, why not? They said, it's not in our DNA. And he tapped his chest like, get the heck out of here.
Wow.
And so I got that response from virtually every retail store I went to.
But didn't they see, you must have at some point, you're the entrepreneur, you've had businesses, you were in corporate America, then you had your own businesses, you had this long, illustrious career. At some point you went, hey, if I want this, there are other people who want this, and probably for the same reason, because at a certain age, I'm sure it appeals to lots of people, but let's be honest, for men of a certain age like you and I, it's hard riding a bike. That's why I probably haven't ridden a bike in 20 years.
Well, the reason people stop riding bikes is it stops being fun.
Yeah.
When the exercise is more painful than the enjoyment you're getting from riding a bike, then it stopped being fun. So I decided that after 7 of these bikes and my friends coming over riding and up having a great time, that I would have an experiment and open a retail store. And I went big. I rented
I've heard this story. You went real big, yeah.
I rented a 3,500 square foot building next to the crab cooker in Newport Beach, California. When I say next to the crab cooker, I mean next door. It was contiguous. We shared a wall with the crab cooker.
Yeah.
Ate a lot of clam chowder that year.
This is like right on what, Pacific Coast Highway or something?
No, this is on Balboa Boulevard, on Balboa Peninsula.
There you go.
And so over that year, I tried everything electric. We put electric golf carts, electric skateboards, electric scooters, electric bikes. We even had an electric car, a Zen electric car, a ZENN, now defunct, a Canadian company that gave me one on consignment. And I quickly figured out that electric bikes is where it's at. Everybody wanted one. They bought them in pairs, but I didn't have any. Nobody made one that was decent.
So let me stop you again, because I know you want to race through the story, and this is I don't got to come up with this next epiphany. You had a need. You bought a bike. You bought some more, you started fooling around with it, and suddenly you said, I'm going to go into this business. Why? Nobody was in this business then.
Well, because I saw a need. I saw an itch that needed to be scratched, and I agree with you. I think there was the people that were buying these bikes were couples in their 50s and above that wanted to ride their bike and wanted to ride just like me. They wanted and so I realized that I'm a proof of concept and scale person. So the concept was electric bikes, really cool, right?
Right.
The proof of concept is to sell a few. Yeah, you can sell 5 or 10 or 15 or 20. Well, then why can't you sell 500 or 1,000, or in our case, hundreds of thousands now?
Right.
Because there's a market, and it still haven't even scratched the surface for what the potential is.
So the second part of the question is, you answered why e-bikes. Why didn't the other ones work as well? Why is e-bike the sweet spot?
Well, are you talking about other brands?
No, scooters, skateboards, cars, everything. Cars are starting to come into their own, but for a long time, there were a lot of experiments. There's still a lot of experiments with electric transportation, whatever you want to call it, electric mobility. And slowly but surely, we've had them on our station, other shows here, talking about e-skateboards, e-scooters, V's, electric vehicles and stuff. But you saw bikes. In a word,
the answer is fun. And but it's more than that, because it's recreational fun, and it's community, and it's having something you can do and get some degree of exercise. It's something you can do socially, and it's something that's the great equalizer, because nobody's electric bike is going to go faster than your electric bike, because they all go up to 20 miles an hour, and nobody runs them at 20 miles an hour when they're riding with a group. Right. They may run around at 10 or 12, and everybody gets to keep up. There's no strength issue. There's no stamina issue. Everybody gets to ride, and what's amazing is everybody has a smile on their face before, during, and after they're riding that. You can't say that about an ordinary bike ride, and I can't say that about a scooter or a golf cart or an electric car.
Yeah.
It's just a transportation piece.
The other thing I see is what you alluded to. It's couples, it's groups, it's your friends and you. I might take a skateboard. I wouldn't at my age, but I might take a skateboard just to go out and cruise around on it. I might take a scooter to get through downtown, to get from one office building to the next or something like that, like Bird and Lime and all these guys were trying to pioneer that idea, quick transportation, short distance. A car, a whole nother thing. But this idea of a bike is something, I think it's unique because it's a herd, it's a tribe, it's a group thing you do.
Well, that's part of the whole Pedego experience, too. We build community where people do ride together. A lot of times I see other electric bikes out there. They all seem to be riding by themselves. I always say, if you want to ride by yourself, get another brand. If you want to ride with a group and a community, get a Pedego.
Yeah.
And it actually rings true. If you go out and ride around and see the people riding, you see lots of individual people riding electric bikes. But when you see a Pedego, it's usually in a herd or with a group, and it's kind of a community thing. I think that somewhat makes our culture unique. And so we kind of built it on that. But back to the other products, such as the scooters, and you mentioned electric skateboard. Mm-hmm. I carried two cool electric skateboard. One was wired and one was Bluetooth. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God, the scariest thing in the world. That Bluetooth thing lost connectivity. You're going 60 miles an hour, and you realize the brake, or 6 miles an hour, and the brake is in your hand. You lost connectivity. Wow. The thing's still going, and you're on it, and you can't stop it. So I decided that was a non-starter for an electric skateboard. Right. It doesn't mean if you're very skilled, and it's almost like you got to be an athlete and very skilled to do it. But I like the wired ones better because they were more solid connection. But nobody wanted to buy the wired ones. They wanted to buy the wireless ones. And the wireless ones I deemed just to be unsafe, so I stopped selling them. Golf carts were a pain in the butt. They were expensive, and there wasn't a whole lot of margin in it for me as a retailer. Mm-hmm. And you had to transport them with a trailer and ride them up. And when it broke, people wanted to go out to your house and fix them. With a bike, they ride it away or they put it on the back of the car. And when it's broken, they bring it back to you. And you fix it.
So the sweet spot wasn't just the experience; it was all the other things that go into the considerations: the price point, the ease of transport, of moving it around, the riding it together as a group. There were a lot of different factors.
Yeah, but the magic was the fun that people had.
You keep saying that fun's a hard thing to put your finger on.
Well,
but I feel it when I see people, when I've ridden your bikes and when I've seen people on these bikes. Why is this so much fun?
Well, I think it has a sense of empowerment. You can go out there and enjoy the sights. You can go out there and have the thrill of a motorcycle without the danger. You can have the opportunity to get some exercise without having to get strained. And you can go all day long. Yeah. You know, people ask me, how far do the bikes go? And I say, well, with our latest batteries, further than you're going to want to ride at any given time. Yeah. So you never worry about running out of battery. Early days, the batteries only went about 10 miles, and they'd run out, and that was not so much fun. There were a lot more not so much fun in those days because the technology wasn't there, and the quality of the bikes.
Lithium was a big changer, right? When you guys, because in the beginning you were doing lead acid batteries.
Total game changer. So the reason Pedego got formed is because I discovered lithium batteries. All the early bikes that I had and that I sold had lead acid batteries, and these were 30-pound packs. They were basically three 12-volt motorcycle batteries, strung together in parallel to go on the back of the bike. That's a lot of weight, and they only worked for 10 miles, and their duty cycle was only 100 to 200 charges. So you'd have to, basically every 200 rides, you'd have to throw it away and buy new ones. Yeah. And that just wasn't appealing. When lithium came around, and at that time there was 1,000 cycles. Now it's thousands of cycles. Yeah. They pretty much will last, 5 to 7
cycle meaning
years.
How many times you can charge it and recharge
Correct.
it. Right? Yeah.
Correct. And so they had very limited distance, and they had very limited cycle life. Now they were inexpensive, but 12-volt battery were not designed for constant discharge. They were for that quick start a car, start a boat, start a lawnmower. They weren't designed to run.
No, never not to be the power source.
So that was the game changer, and that was the thing that was missing. We talk about Lee Iacocca. He failed for 5 reasons, and trust me, I knew the whole Lee Iacocca story from the get-go. I studied it because I said, what makes me think I can do it with just a few $100,000? And he had $50 million to start, and he failed. Connected, well-known guy, hired.
And they were distributing through the Ford dealerships, as I recall.
That was another failure. They had 2 car dealerships in general. Yeah, he failed for 5 reasons. Right. I knew and understood all 5. And we can have that as a different topic.
Let's do that some other time.
It's a fascinating story.
Okay. All right. So your story, let's wrap it up. So you came to this epiphany that there was something, you had a need, an urge you needed to scratch. You wanted to get down to the beach, didn't want to ride back up the hill, bought some, discovered this. It's a herd, it's a pack of fun. Your friends come, your group comes, your kids come, everybody comes. And then you went out, proof of concept, sold some of them right here in Southern California. When did you decide, I'm not just going to be a dealer, open up a bunch of dealers, I'm going to make these things, I'm going to buy these things, I'm going to make one better than anybody else has made it?
Well, it was a moment in time when my supplier, now there weren't very many good electric bikes available at that time, and we found we could make our own. Mm-hmm. So we were taking some really nice quality regular bicycles and converting them into electric. Mm-hmm. And that model was working. They were colorful, they were comfortable, they were good quality, and we ended up adding these motors to the front and batteries on the back to give it a balance. And it was a little bit heavy, but I think they were 80 pounds when they were all done, which was a little too heavy. But people were buying them, and I noticed the women wanted to buy colors, and the men wanted to know how fast and how far they go.
All right.
That's the difference. So we one day the manufacturer came to us, and they said, we can't sell you bikes anymore. I said, excuse me? He said, we can't allow you to convert our regular bikes to electric bikes. And I said, why is that? I said, the owners of our company do not believe in electric bikes. They think that you're ruining them and that you're taking our perfectly good products. So if you continue to do this, we're not going to sell you bikes anymore. So they basically cut off my supply. They were the best quality bike. That's what the customers were used to. We were selling them in the day and building them at night. And all of a sudden, they cut off my supply of the bikes. And at the same time, the companies that were making the motors, our main supplier went bankrupt. And so we all of a sudden lost our supply of motors and our supply of bikes almost simultaneously. And that day was an epiphany. I decided that I would sell the store and start a company that would do nothing but make electric bikes and start them from the ground up, using everything I learned from what I now refer to as a laboratory.
Yeah,
the store that
living
I had
laboratory,
opened.
Right.
And so we knew what we wanted. We went to a professional car designer to build, who had a passion for bikes, and told him what we wanted from a color and a style standpoint. And we started building electric bikes. And it took about 5 years for that other company to decide that they missed the boat, and they decided to start building electric bikes.
There you go. Well, what an amazing tale. How far has this thing grown, and how far does it have yet to go, do you think?
Well, we're in the first inning of a 9-inning game, in my opinion. The market is still huge. We've been selling Pedego since 2009, and every year we just keep getting incrementally better. We're now on our third generation of Pedegos we're rolling out right now. So first generation we kind of learned from what I learned from the store. Second generation we launched in 2011. We've been running with that. We've been perfecting them for 10 years. But now in 2022 we'll be rolling out the third generation, which has been in design now for 4 or 5 years, to make sure we've perfected every component on the bike.
And I'm assuming at this point now it is its own distinct vehicle. It's not just a bike with a battery attached to it somehow.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, a lot of the electric bikes being sold right now are just a bike that they strap on a motor and a battery and say, this is now an electric bike. And a lot of our competitors, even the bike companies, have done the same thing. You can see the batteries that look like they just kind of added them as an afterthought.
Right.
From day one, I wanted to make sure that the battery was integrated in part of the bike. And I'd say that the first couple of years we didn't succeed in that completely, but we had the right idea where the frame that held the battery was integrated when the frame was made, but then we were buying an off-the-shelf battery. We don't buy any off-the-shelf components anymore. Almost every component on our bike is specifically designed to be on an electric bike and specifically to be a Pedego high quality. So we're not about volume so much as we are quality. Some people have gotten the business and they just want to sell quantity, get their name out there, sell as many for as cheap as they can. We've taken a different approach. We'd rather sell less bikes and make sure that the customer gets a quality bike and, more importantly, has a quality experience. And the quality experience starts with the test ride. I don't recommend anybody buy an electric bike from anybody, including Pedego, that doesn't first experience it and try the different models. We make 18 different models and coming out with 3 more. Why? Because it's like a pair of shoes. They fit everybody differently.
Right.
And bikes are even more importantly. If the bike's not comfortable when you're riding it, you're likely not going to ride it very often. But if you get one that fits you perfectly, just like a comfortable pair of jeans, you're going to go for that pair every day, right? I go into my closet and I got 10 pairs of jeans, but I always keep picking the most comfortable pair. The same thing is true with the bike. So rather than buy 10 bikes, I always say you can buy it right. You can buy it twice, or you can buy it right. If you try it on, you take it for a long test drive. At our 185 locations, you can go out and rent one for an hour, for a day, for a week if you want. And you can try all different bikes before you pick out the one that's right for you.
And that's really the last epiphany I saw that you had. The first one was, hey, there's something needed here, this e-bike thing. This is kind of cool. Second one is, hey, I can actually sell this, and there's a market to I could open up dealerships and do this. But nobody that I'm aware of, is there anybody else that's actually gone out and created their own dealer network specifically for their product here?
No. In fact, to this day, I'm surprised nobody else has. It's kind of unique to us. But, coming up on the next podcast is going to be a very exciting thing. You're going to hear from the real visionary behind the brand and opening up the stores. And that's going to be Tom Bach. He opened up the first store in 2000. Came to me in 2011, said, I want to open a Pedego store in Huntington Beach. 2012, he opened it up, and now he's one of the finest dealers on the planet, and he has the success of his own store, but now he's helped us open 184 more of them.
There you go. Well, I look forward to hearing that story, because that is the entrepreneurial story behind your success. It isn't just that you saw the need and built a great product. You found a way to market this that nobody else has thought of here. I think it's a phenomenal tale, and I look to ride along with us. How do they learn more? Is there any way people can reach out to you? Are you unapproachable now, or if other people are interested in learning how to be a dealer or learning how to get into the e-bike revolution, how do they contact you?
Well, first of all, I can say the best source of information is on our website. If you go to Pedego.com, if you're interested in buying a bike, there's a great selection of all our different models there. But if you're interested in becoming a dealer, there's a category that said Own a Store. And you click on that and put in your information, basic information, and that'll serve you up a 30-minute video that explains the whole business model. So rather than me getting on the phone and missing things or not giving it, you get to hear
Start there.
Right from the beginning what it is. And then after that, if you have further interest, then we can have some ongoing dialogue. So I recommend the website. I am approachable. I get too many emails every day, but I'm always open for more. So it's real simple. It's don@pedego.com.
There you go, Don at Pedego. And Pedego is P-E-D-E-G-O. Pedego means what? How did you come up with that?
Well, you pedal. You add a little bit of E, which the E can either stand for energy or electricity, and then you go. So the combination of your pedaling and some electricity makes you go.
In hindsight, it seems so obvious, but at the time, it must have seemed so radical, all the things you were doing here. Well, as an old hippie myself, I love this radical revolution that you've created here, and I look forward to riding along week after week here on the Pedego Podcast.
Thank you, Paul.
Well, there you have it, the latest installment of the Pedego Podcast, an e-bike revolution. Join us every week as we talk with the entrepreneurs behind the revolution, powering the movement, and the love stories of those just riding along. Brought to you by Pedego Electric Bikes. For more information, simply visit Pedego.com. That's Pedego, Pedego.com.